Hey guys, today we are going to build an Unbrick process for the Wansview W7. What's up guys, it's Josh with the WL Tech Blog. Today I've got a Wansview W7. We've had a couple of folks who have had issues with these for whatever reason, where they're not taking the install properly or they manage to brick them later on in the process. But today I'm going to show you a method that you can recover these using an SD card. You're also going to need a screwdriver, so that's going to be something new that you didn't need in the initial install. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's go over to the bench. Alright, so I got this set of precision screwdrivers from Dollar General. They cost me $1.50 plus tax. I think I paid $1.60 total. Can't beat that. It's got the longer shafts, which is pretty important for some of these cameras that have deeply recessed screws. So I've got the largest diameter, which is a 3/32. And if you look at the W7, on the back side there is a single screw. So we're going to go ahead and take that screw out. And that's the only thing holding this cover on, although you also want to make sure you have the head tilted upwards. And if your cam's been outside for a while, this might stick. Mine stuck the first time I did it, but otherwise it should just peel right off. Now you rotate it down, you see we have these 4 holes. We're going to go ahead and take the screws out of those. 2, 3, and 4. So with that done, the front of the camera should more or less just fall out. Now I'm going to try to show you how to do this with as little taking apart as possible. So from here we have full access, but this cord is just pulling on it a little bit, so we're just going to move that out of the way. Now the chip we're actually after is this guy here, and this is the SPI flash. There are 8 pins. They start at the dot, which is going to be here, and you go counterclockwise. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the pins that we're interested in is 5 and 6. And we're going to get back to that. Next thing we need to do is get our SD card prepared. So real quick, let me explain what we are doing here. Now, your SD card, when you partition it and format it with your file system, it's actually leaving a chunk of space free at the beginning. By default, there's going to be about a megabyte, or maybe exactly a megabyte, of unused or underused space. And the processor in these cams, the Ingenic chips, if they aren't able to boot from other methods, they will look, if the MMC, the SD slot, is enabled, they will look there to see if there is a card in there, and it'll check a specific point and try to load from there. So that point actually falls in between the partition table and where the first partition starts. So quite interestingly, you can put your bootloader in between those things and have a valid file system on the card, which makes this a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to pop the SD card into this device, and let's switch over to a shell. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and build this on Linux. I'm going to publish a complete image for you guys, so you're able to just use a SD card imaging program and turn this into a working SD card. So don't worry about trying to repeat these steps. I'm going to do them all for you. So first thing we want to do is see what device our SD card is. Now I just popped it in, and you see it is device SDA. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to treat this as a brand new device. So we're going to fdisk dev SDA. we're going to do a new partition table. Oh, first we have to delete. And we want to do a new, oh, it's M for help. We want to do a new DOS partition table, which is 220. All right, we now have a blank device here. We're going to create a new partition, primary, number 1. We're going to take the defaults for the first sector, and we're going to take the defaults for the last sector. This is just because there was already a file system there, which is fine. We're completely overriding it. We're going to change the partition type. We know it's C for FAT32. I'm going to show you the partition table here, and you see our first sector is at 2048, and these are 512 byte blocks, so this first partition does not begin until 1 megabyte into the card. So we're going to write our changes, and it exits. Our next step, we are going to put a file system on this. Gonna do FAT32 dev SDA1. So we've got that. Now we're going to mount the file system. All right, now we need to grab a firmware image for this device. This one we know is a T23 Wansview W7. So we're just gonna come over here real quick and download today's build. Do W7 T23. Copy that link. All right, now in our downloads, we have this firmware image file. Now the Wansview W7 and the Galileo Y4 are the same device, and we had support for the Galileo Y4 first, so that's why you'll see it in the file name there. So what we want to do is copy that to here as auto update -full.bin. Oh, and of course everything is owned by root. So we've got that. Now make sure it looks good, and then we're going to unmount the SD card. Now the next step of this, we need to get the U-boot image, which I already have downloaded into temp, and we have to write it to the disk at a certain offset so that we don't overwrite the partition table. And it just so happens that I have that offset over here in my notes. You guys don't mind if I use notes. So here you see we are running it as root. We are using DD. We're taking the input file of a MSC0 booting U-boot for the T23N processor, which is what we have. The output device is SDA, which is the SD card, setting the block size to 512 bytes, and we're seeking ahead 34 blocks. So that puts us past the partition table, and that's where the processor is going to look. So go ahead and do that. Now, sync is probably unnecessary. I just like to do it. Now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna pop the SD card out, and then I'm gonna push it right back in. I'm just gonna show you. First off, it comes up, our partition table is intact because you see we have our SDA1. And we can mount it, and there is our file. So we did not screw up the file system or the file that we put there in this process. All right, we've got it unmounted. Let's go ahead and get back out of the shell. All right, now for the actual unbricking process. We're going to take our SD card. We're going to pop it into the camera. Alright, well, I'm going to show you how this goes. We're going to get a flathead screwdriver and rotate this. Maybe you'll be able to see a little better. We're going to set up our screwdriver Get it in between the legs on 5 and 6. Gonna rotate just enough so that they're touching. Then we're going to plug in our USB cord. So here we go. 1 second and let off. Alright, now during this process, there's no feedback at all from the camera, which would be really helpful to let you know that you've done something right or wrong. But we've got our phone here running our Wi-Fi list. We're going to listen for clicks on the device, and we're going to see how it goes. Don't be afraid to try it a second time if you don't get a result after about 2 minutes. While we wait for that, let's look over at the stream. All right. All right, just heard the IR cut click, so it looks like I got it on the first try. And it's doing a 0 on the motors, so that's great. Just gonna wait until I've got the provisioning network showing up on my phone. There it is. Went ahead and chose the network, and it's bringing up our provisioning portal. So this device has been unbricked using an SD card. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it, and we're going to reassemble it. All right, power has been removed. We're going to plug the speaker back in. It's the only wire we removed. And all of our screws are still held in place by the plastic. So we're going to go ahead and push this where it needs to go. Make sure when you're assembling it that the SD card cover is pointing away from the housing, not towards it. Or else you'll fumble around for an unreasonable amount of time. Just going to run the screws down. Alright, and somehow I'm short a screw. Alright, once you get those screws all put into place, we're going to go ahead and put our hood back on. And again, you want the camera facing up. And this only goes one way, and there is a little tab. Let me show you. This little tab right here needs to line up with this groove right here. It's only on the one side. So use that to guide getting it pushed down into place, like so. And then we have the one little screw for the back. Alright, and now we have a recovered Wansview W7 that used to not boot, that now is booting directly to the config portal for Thingino. Alright, well that is the Wansview W7 SD card unbrick process. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you are interested in the Thingino project, check it out at thingino.com. If you are participating and using it yourself and would like to get involved or you need help, check us out over at the Hackers Homestead Discord channel. I've got the link for that down in the video description. I have a couple suggested cameras that I really like that work really well with Thingino. I'll have links to those in the description as well. and I have videos on all of the cameras that I recommend. So that's going to wrap it up for today. I appreciate you tuning in. If you like this type of content, I'd appreciate if you would give me a subscribe. Thumbs ups always help, and if you have any questions or comments, put them down in the video description. Until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.